Hey there guys, Walt Solo here. And today we're going to be diving deep into the fighter class in Dark and Darker. Now, I know a lot of you might be interested into trying this beefy melee class, but you're not sure where to start or how to do it? Well, you're in the right place. Because today I will be teaching you the fundamentals in order to play the fighter class like a Chad. So, why play Fighter? Well, Fighter is the most versatile class in the game due to weapon mastery, a perk which allows them to use any martial weapon of their choosing in exchange for 10% less damage with said weapons. Fighter is also the tankiest class in the game, being able to stack massive amounts of PDR. Fighter can also deal quite a significant amount of damage due to the axis of the longsword, which makes him a force to be reckoned with. And last but not least, Fighter is also very satisfying and fun class to play. With the ability to do almost anything and wield any weapon, you will always have a piece of gear that you can make a build around. Fighter can struggle with mobility issues, as there's classes that can actually kite him around for quite a while, such as Rangers and Wizards. While being extremely tanky, using a sword and shield, your damage output also tends to be a little bit lower, which making trading with classes such as Barbarian a lot harder. Let's go over some skills and perks so you can understand what your class is capable of. First off, we have Adrenaline Spike. Whenever your health goes below 40%, you gain 15% action speed for 12 seconds. Barricade will give you 50 armor rating and 50 magic resistance whenever you're in a defensive stance. Combo Attack will give you 10% physical damage bonus whenever you've been attacking for 2 seconds or longer. Counter Attack will give you 10% movement speed bonus and 10% action speed bonus for 3 seconds whenever you block an attack. Defense Mastery, you will gain 10% ammo rating bonus from the equipped armor. Dual Wield, while you have weapons equipped in both hands, you gain 10% action speed. Projectile Resistance, you gain 10% projectile damage reduction. Shield Mastery, while in defensive stance, gain 10% movement speed bonus when you successfully block an attack, and then you gain 50% action speed bonus towards your next attack. Slayer, while holding a weapon in each hand, you gain 5 weapon damage and lose the ability to equip plate armor. Swift will reduce the armor movement speed penalty by 20%. Sword Mastery, when using a sword type weapon, you gain 2 damage, 5% action speed, as well as 10 additional movement speed when you're taking a defensive stance with your sword. And last but not least, Weapon Mastery will give you the ability to use any martial weapon, but taking a 10% physical damage reduction on that weapon. Now with that out of the way, we're gonna go over the skills. Adrenaline Rush will give you 15% action speed for 8 seconds, and after this duration ends, you will lose 8% action speed as well as 4% movement speed. Breakthrough. It removes the debuffs that slow you, as well as ignoring them for the next 10 seconds. Perfect Block. It gives you 5 impact resistance for 6 seconds. Second Wind. You recover 40% of your health over 12 seconds. Shield Slam. It deals 25 physical damage to a player, as well as reducing their movement speed by 20% for 2 seconds. Sprint. You gain 3 stacks of momentum. Each stack grants you 15 additional movement speed per stack, and you lose 1 stack every 2 seconds. Taunt, it increases the aggro of all monsters within 7.5 meters. However, you do gain a 10% physical damage reduction and a 10% magical damage reduction. Victory Strike, your next attack will deal an additional 20% physical damage bonus, and if that target dies, you regain 15% of your maximum health. Now I will go over 3 different builds that I personally play. These builds are not the all and be all for the fighter, and I'm sure you can find many different ways to play it, but this is the ways that I played myself. The Doom Slayer. The Slayer build is a build that focuses on high action speed, high movement speed, as well as using dual wield. For that, we'll be using the dual wield perk, we'll be using weapon mastery, combo attack, as well as swift. For our skills, we'll be taking adrenaline rush, and second wind to make sure we have enough survivability as well as damage output. These 2 skills synergize really well because as soon as you use second wind, you can remove the debuff from Adrenaline Rush. Keep in mind that Adrenaline Rush also increases attack speed of your ranged attacks, making a very viable opener. As far as the build goes, we're going to be using the Crusader Helm, Grand Brigandine, loose trousers, light gauntlets, adventurous boots, recurved bow, roundel dagger, and a stiletto dagger. This should ensure that we have enough attack speed and movement speed in order to be able to kite our opponents effectively before engaging. The goal for this build is to stay in a mid-range distance so we can effectively poke our opponents before going in with the daggers and finish them out. As an example, right here, I headshot my opponent and then I go in with my daggers to make sure I finish the kill.
Who's next?
Keep in mind that you have a bow and you can always use it as an opener or to finish a kill. In this case, I see an enemy below and I started shooting before engaging. Luckily, I hit him with a headshot and I secure the kill. The shoulder build. This build focuses mostly on defensive capabilities of the fighter, making sure we're survivable. We're gonna be using the sword and shield as well as the following perks: Defense Mastery, Counter Attack, Swift, and Shield Mastery. For our skills, we're gonna be using Sprint and Second Wind. For the build, we're gonna be using Dark Plate Armor. We're also gonna be using Dashing Boots, Heavy Gauntlets, Plate Pants, and the Houndscoot Helmet. As far as your weapons go, your bread and butter is gonna be the Arming Sword, and either the Round Shield or the Heater Shield, whichever you feel most comfortable with. And for a side weapon, we're gonna be using the Crossbow. The main goal of this build is to always draw attention from the enemies so they attack you instead of your DPS. As you can see in here, I draw the attention from the Bard and the Cleric, effectively making a space for my Barb so he can deal some damage. Nice. Make sure to use Second Wind right before fighting in order to ensure that you can live for as long as possible. Next up, we have the Long Swordsman. This build ensures to deal as much damage as possible while still remaining heavily armored. For this build, we'll take the following perks: Defense Mastery, Swift, Sword Mastery, and Combo Attack. As far as our perks go, we have a couple options to work with. We can either take Taunt in order to make sure that we're tankier, given that it gives us 10% magical and physical reduction. We can take Victory Strike in order to deal as much damage as possible and catch our enemies off guard. Or we can take Sprint to ensure that we're fast and mobile. I personally like taking Taunt because it ensures that I'm tanky. For a second skill, we're gonna be taking Second Wind because this literally turns you into He-Man. As far as gear goes, it's quite similar to the Sword and Shield. We're gonna be wearing Dark Plate Armor, we're also gonna be wearing Plate Pants, a Crusader Helm, Dashing Boots, and Light Gauntlets. We're also gonna be using the Longsword for our main weapon and the Crossbow for the side weapon. Make sure you're always including the Francisca Axe on every build as it helps you catch up targets that are trying to run away. The Francisca Axe will effectively apply a movement debuff as soon as you hit it.
One down. This guy's fucked.
The role of the Longswordman is that of a bruiser. It's still very tanky, however you deal more damage than the Longsword. For this, you should always aim to look for the squishy targets and team play.
I'm running away from this barb.
The Longsword also features a parry which can get you out of sticky situations, and can turn the tides of the battle from a losing fight to a winning fight.
Nice, Walter.
Alright guys, so this should cover all of the fundamentals that you need in order to get started with the fighter. Over the course of the next week, I will be making more in-depth guides for each build, as well as the weapons that they use. Until then, peace!